A Beginning by Walter de la Mare. In a corner of the Count's old writing desk, I found the diary and letters which follow. For the sake of brevity, one or two passages have been omitted. Otherwise, the young man speaks for himself. A task, apparently, by no means uncongenial. Let his youth be his apology. The letters are here, just as they were found, in a bundle wrapped up in brown paper, tied with a piece of red tape, and simply marked on the cover with a big F. April 25th, 18. In very low spirits all day. It seems to me that one's moods keep up a kind of seesaw, so that the slightest thing swoops one mid-air or plunges one into Hades. This is weak. Perhaps Fanny does not quite understand me. She does not come out to me. I sometimes wonder if I should not have done something really great in the world if I had had someone who passionately believed in me, a companion for my higher self. But, after all, obscurity is more philosophical, and certainly less troublesome. Yet I do detest mere flippant tittle-tattle. Anything abstract depresses women. At least, so I find it. I am sick to death of my miserable self. All the virtue is gone out of this musty, stolid world. Vae victis. April 26th. Met Fanny this afternoon in the High Street. She was out shopping, so I walked a little way with her, but I did not intend to humble myself, craving forgiveness for what I had not done or intended to do, and she kept looking at everyone and answering vacantly, and her face was all indifferent. So I asked her to tell me what I had done. Whereupon, of course, she began to cry, in a corner by a bonnet shop. I could not help being in a rage, because some counter-jumper was watching us from between the bonnets. And then she flared up and told me to go away forever, because she hated me to see her crying. So I shook hands and told her about the counter-jumper. "That's just it," she said. "You simply glory in making me look silly. I know I am silly, but it's not so very clever to bring me here to be laughed at by people." Of course, all this was quite unreasonable, and I pointed it out to her. But we made it up afterwards, and went into Martellini's and had some tea. I don't understand women, and yet I do if I think them out. They don't understand themselves. That's pretty certain. April 26th. Letter from Fanny to Nicholas. 10:15 p.m. My bedroom. My dear Nicholas, Mamma did see us in the pastry cook's and is extremely vexed. She says it looks so vulgar. I wonder if she thought as much about looks in Papa's days. But we must not do it again, though I did enjoy myself very much indeed, dear. We are going to a concert tonight, second row. Will you come and sit somewhere else, and come up accidentally afterwards, because I haven't another ticket. Mamma and Laura are coming, and I dare say that Mr. Harriet will be there, so that will be all right. I think he cringes, but Laura says it's policy. I hate policy if one's feelings tell one not, don't you? I'm sorry for being cross, dear, but sometimes you seem as if you were cold, almost on purpose. Do please come to the concert and sit where I can see you. I shall not enjoy it the least bit if you don't. Mrs. Bolsover is going to sing the May Queen, and Harriet the guitar in the second part. From your ever affectionate Fanny. P.S. Do you think that impudent shopman really saw us? April 27th. Letter from Uncle Robert threatens to mew me up in Cornwall if I laze about here. There are two sides to that question, sweet guardian. Last night I dreamed vividly of the old house. I have not seen it for 13 years. I was looking in by the iron gates and saw a mother in a shawl walking in the garden, and there was a fire burning in the dining room. The flames were shining in the window. And then, just as mother looked up, the dream went out. as if Morpheus had taken the light away. There is a tinge of melancholy in old things. I feel as if I were a traitor in having quite forgotten it all. I shall go down one afternoon and revive the dead past. My memory seems haunted now. Of course, this is nonsense, and it is just thought connection. Letter from Fanny. So Madame did espy us over our banquet. She puts me in a mind of a gooseberry that has spent all its sweetness on its size. Some men have no vocation to be a husband. The intellectual life is highest. Well, I suppose I shall be a maudlin old greybeard in time. We all come to it if we are such fools as to live long enough. New coat and trousers came home. Shall send latter back tomorrow. Very bad fit. Fanny, I gently muse of thee in midnight solitude. The memory of thy melting orb is like a beatitude, and oft the breezes waft thy name unto my wakeful sense. Thy loving heart were all my fame and all my recompense. To bed. April 28th. Warm. Sent clothes back. Nil. April 29th. The Scarlet Lady. I started off about 2 o'clock, and there, as if all these years it had been preserved under a glass case, was the old place. I dawdled slowly up the narrow street. There in the sawdust sprawled the same narrow curly retriever dog, or a grandson. There in guilty row stood the same shabby dusty books in the library, and there the same old Mrs. Perks, now in the apple dumpling stage with silvering hair, peering between the illuminated texts. But everything seemed so curiously small. I seemed to myself a kind of Werther, or for that matter a Rip Van Winkle. Not a soul recognized me, but I enjoyed the secrecy of the thing. On I went, and at the hilltop under the chestnut trees burst out upon the heath. And like the effeminate ass I am, I had to blink to keep from crying. Well, I am not ashamed of it, if it was so. If a thing is, it is, and if that is one's philosophy in life, one is safe from the sham senseless mob. On again I went, between the gorse bushes, and about 5 in the afternoon came in sight of the house. There it was, just as I remembered it. I went on slowly. Hame, 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 hame. I took hold of the bars of the gate and stared in at the familiar place. There were red curtains in the dining-room windows, smoke was winding up from the chimney, and an old man was digging in the kitchen garden. I could just see him over the hedge. And while I was standing there, staring like an owl, I heard the cessation of footsteps. It's a very curious example of the senses being disconnected with the ego, because I am quite convinced I had not actually heard the footsteps themselves. I turned round, and there stood a girl, top to toe in scarlet. She stood there, rather slim and pale, looking out gravely at me from under her beaver hat. I can't, for the life of me, think who she reminded me of. At last I managed to stutter out some apology and open the gate for her. She bowed solemnly, and, still looking at me with her bright grave eyes, passed through. The gate swung to after her, and up to the heavens went its old whinnying squeal. And just as I was about to go, she turned towards me with one hand held irresolutely out of her muff, the red sleeve hanging down like the wing of a wounded bird. She frowned a little, raising and lowering her eyebrows, a little trick of hers, and to my intense surprise, spoke to me. Her voice was soft and quick, with a lot of notes in it, rather pretty. "Pray forgive me," she said very nervously, "but perhaps perhaps you would like to walk in the garden." Consequently, I must needs out with why I was staring in at her gate. Anyone would think that I had never set eyes on a woman before. Still, she was rather disconcerting. "Oh, then, pray come in," she said. "My father would be so very pleased to have you see it all again. I think you know. It's very strange, but even when I saw you standing here at the gates as I came up, I recognized you. The stoop, the turn of the head, just a little something in the attitude. But dear me, how ridiculous this must seem to you, for you have never so much as seen the glimmer of the ghost of me, have you? Dreaming or waking, I wonder. But I know you, and very well too, though it is not quite the same face. Wiser, you know. No, not wiser, more experienced. It is a very long time ago since you lived here." She might have been talking to herself. Her voice ran on so easily. 13 years, I said. But how? "Yes, so it is, so it is," she answered. "Exactly 13 years. 13. My father bought the house, you know." "Then he must have bought it from the executors." "Yes, poor mite, and you not so high then, just up to my waist here, I should think, and long straight hair, and big eyes in a wan face. Oh, I have pitied you sometimes." I am not sure that I was over-grateful for her pity. She laughed mysteriously and knocked at the door. A middle-aged woman in slippers opened to her. She looked quickly at me with pale grey eyes. "This is Nicholas, Helen," said the scarlet lady, and looked back at me again. "Is that so, miss?" said the woman. She smoothed her sleek hair with the palm of her hand. An abominable person. "There, you see," Miss added to me. "I know your name, too. You must come in and see my father, and we'll have tea, please, Helen. Mr. Nicholas must taste my honey. The garden, I am afraid, is not nearly so prim and proper as it should be, all waste and sweetness. Thomas is growing old, and the birds come in legions, so of course the fruit is theirs, cherries and strawberries. We haven't had a dishful for years. But then they sing, the birds, you know, just as you two must have heard them 13 years ago." She rambled on without stopping, as if she had known me all her life, and yet I am sure she was nervous of me, because her hands were trembling. She had opened the door of my mother's little parlor, and instantly a picture flashed in on me of the little room in the old days, with its muslin curtains and its carpet of moss roses, and its blue silk work-basket, and my mother's little favorite cane chair, where she used to sit in the bow window over her needlework. But now, instead, here a gaunt old gentleman sat bolt upright in a stiff wooden chair before an empty grate. Rows of musty folios of duodecimos lined the shelves in the walls, and there was a lame old clock ticking. On one side of the bow window stood a mouldering bureau, gaping and chock-full of papers. It reeked of mortality. The old boy had reluctantly put down his book, and now got up stiffly from his chair when we approached him. A lamp-post of a man with a large high nose. He bowed absent-eyedly over my hand like a schoolmaster, until I felt I was being carpeted, and on bare boards, too. "This gentleman has come to look over the house and walk in the garden, father," said Florence. He bowed again. Florence moved her eyebrows up and down and coughed, another little trick of hers. "It is really his house, of course, and we are just barbarians, interlopers. He was the little boy who came into the world here, and who knows every nook and cranny, every cupboard, corner too, I'll be bound, and the views spread out from every window, like a picture book. He says sesame, and there it is. I found him peeping through the bars of the gate, just as he used to peep, 10 inches high. So what could I do but behave unladylikely and ask him to come in?" She went to the window, squeezing in between the bureau and the panels of the wall, and turned her back on us, standing quite still. It was curious to see her scarlet in the bare room. The old fellow's face was like a mask. "I shall be happy to be of any service to you, sir," he said. The roots of childhood strike very deep. In the first years we learn our whereabouts. I have no doubt the house recalls much to your remembrance. Will you please be quite at liberty here? I think I once had the honor of meeting your mother many—" "Mother, his mother," said the girl, whipping round. "And this is the first. Oh, tell me. Oh, but—" She eyed me anxiously, as if she feared she might have hurt me. "Now you must come and see the garden," she added, breaking off with a smile, "or else night will be catching us up. Will you?" "Pray excuse me, sir, if I do not accompany you into the garden," said the old gentleman. "It is, I fear, but poorly tended. Things are left to grow in their own free way. My daughter prefers it so, and I think I prefer it so too. Please put yourself quite at your ease, and spare us nothing to be of service to you." I saw Florence squeeze his hand as she passed. "Isn't it splendid?" she said. "I always told you he'd come." "Fancies, fancies, my dear child," said the old fellow vacantly. "It is hazardous to put your faith in fancies. Everything passes. Things are what they are in essence. There is no change." He said this, or some such stuff, standing erect as if he were some antique philosopher with the gods for audience. And then, for the first time, I noticed he was a clergyman, a remarkable old man, however eccentric, real. "And now I suppose I must tell you the secret," said Florence, as she led me out and bade me wait at the foot of the staircase, while she ran up singing, and that gave me time to think. It seemed awfully strange to find myself standing alone in the house again, so acutely familiar and yet utterly changed. And it was devilish melancholy. I seemed to hear again my mother's footstep behind me, and when the strange woman, strange to me, came upstairs from the kitchen, I fancied for a moment it was her maid Martha, who used always to be muttering about the house with their feather broom. Hey-yo! I have gone through many years and a good deal of experience since those days, and I see life in its true colors. I suppose it's rather ridiculous to be writing down all this stuff. Still, it seemed even in its own time a kind of epoch or crisis in my life. Besides, this girl was quite different from all my previous experience with her monotonous sex, so whimsical and mysterious and almost dictatorial to me. Nor was she a bit pretty, or even beautiful, except her eyes. But, after all, in the words of the proverb, beauty is only skin deep. The Lady in Scarlet, a romance in 3 volumes by a new, original, and talented author. When she came downstairs, she had taken off her hat, and her dark hair was drawn back loosely from her forehead, quite plain. There is a sort of curve about her eyes. It's difficult to describe, but her face is so much herself, not the least bit like Fanny. "Now come into the garden," she said, "and I'll show it thee." I remember the "thee" distinctly, so out I went after her into the garden. In an instant I shrunk up into the breeches age. There it was quite unchanged, only a little wilder and greener. Cherry and apple and hawthorn, lilac and laburnum, and melting sweet with wallflowers. It was Mother, all herself. "There, Mr. Nichols," she said brightly, leaning forward an instant. "Have we been fickle? Do you remember?" And then her face was all grave again. "How am I to excuse myself?" she continued. "I am ashamed to think of it. Up at the window there, looking out over the tree-tops, I saw it all in a flash, and I was utterly ashamed. I don't know what you must think of me, but whatever it is true. Still, if you have the heart of the little boy whose face I know so well, you will easily forgive me. For, don't you see, living here alone day by day, and day by day one learns to conduct oneself as if one were only and always in one's own company. With other people, of course, you must be in their company, and... There, think it in your own words, at any rate. Well?" I mumbled that it was very kind of her, and all that, and that I was much obliged to Mr.
"Our name is Lindsay," she broke in quickly. "I forgot. My father has no curacy or anything of that kind here. We just live on together."
"He is very fortunate to have such a companion," I said, and nearly bit my tongue off. I can't help saying silly things to women. Her frown went away. She closed her lips and looked almost distressed. She shook herself, and all the ring had gone out of her voice.
"Well, as I was coming downstairs, that was not in the least what I wanted to say. Yet somehow or other I have to explain myself, and this is the only way. This picture, I don't want now to show it to you in the least. Not now, but after we had moved into the house, we found a litter of old papers in one of my father's cupboards, and this was among them. I stole it. I hate showing it to you. It is like betraying a friend, but still I must do so. And please, if you wouldn't mind, will you give it me back quickly?"
After all this beating about the bush, she put into my hand a little pencil drawing of a child framed in an oval of ebony, and underneath it was written in my old infantile scrawl, "This is me, Nicholas." Of course I remembered it instantly. It was the little drawing Mother made of me years ago. I remember her standing me by the copper coal scuttle in her little parlor, and afterwards sitting me on her knee and telling me what to write and guiding my hand. I can almost feel the heat of the fire on my bare legs, and my tongue anxiously protruded while I scrawled. I told her that it was my mother's drawing. She used to play with me sometimes, I said.
"Poor mite," she said, smiling in her old way. "And have you been happy since? Oh, what a fool I am to be asking such questions. Well, anyhow, now you know why I liked to see you, and it accounts for my pitiful familiarity, my ignorance, does it?"
I stumbled over some remark, repeating kindness, pleasure, and so on.
"Ah," she said, and took the picture from me. "Dreams. Other people are not like me, and there's no conceit in that. I cannot talk to you, Mr. Nicholas. You're listening with all your manners on, and I have forgotten the few I ever had. Well, we must go in."
She hesitated in the porch, half smiling, yet frowning.
"Have you ever said to yourself when anything vividly happens, or you see anything sharply?"
She jerked her hand towards the garden.
"This I shall remember always, just as it is. And when the remembrance comes, well, it isn't quite what one expected. Come in, Mr. Nicholas. I don't know, and will never ask, your surname. This is you, Nicholas, that is all."
We took tea in what, I suppose, is the drawing-room, our dining-room, very old-fashioned and rather shabby. All the house is drab and silent. Mr. Lindsay sat in an old leather armchair, his knees at an acute angle, and ever and again his eyes would melt out of reverie, and he would make a remark. He seemed to be at pains to be good company, and to be always forgetting his good intentions. He munched like an old mare, and sipped 5 cups of tea, and his nose was beaked between his eyes. So, on the whole, I felt devilish de trop. It was a mute's tea party for me. Florence hardly spoke at all. She seemed to have been exhausted with talking, although her eyes were still smoldering. So we stolidly sat on, with an occasional supping noise from Mr. Lindsay and the whistling of the birds in the garden. By and by, to my intense relief, Mr. Lindsay put down his cup for the last time and sat with his hands on his knees.
"I doubt, sir,"
he said presently, as if my very thoughts had been audible,
"I doubt if this house was ever so quiet in your childhood. We are hermits, and solitude attenuates the rumor of the world. But I hope you will pay us another visit some day. We do not order ourselves much by formality, as you perceive, but you will be welcome."
It was evidently a hint for me to be gone, and I jumped at the opportunity. So I thanked him again for his courtesy, and shook him by the hand. He stood up stiff as a lamp-post and seemed to gaze down out of his vacant blue eyes like a caged bird. Florence showed me to the door.
"There,"
she said as she opened it.
"It is growing dusk. I am afraid we have detained you. Have I?"
"Really, no," I said. "I cannot tell you how grateful I am. Fancy to have come to an empty house, or to have found it all—"
"Well, it would not have been faithless," she said. "It would never have been that. We love its silence and solitude. Or rather, we do not feel them. We are egoists. Our fancies bewitch our eyes. That is my garden."
She looked far away over the dusky heath, dark and boundless to the shining of the stars.
"And will you come again, do you think? Dear me, how hard it is to get used to all the conventions. Goodbye, Mr. Nicholas, and I shall keep your picture, and, unless you do come again with your real self on your arm, shall forget you. How still the night is. It is almost as if someone were listening."
Here endeth the first chapter, and once again I am in my own sweet company, thank Jupiter. It's the dolefulest household I ever was in. She had no genuine interest in me, I think. She scarcely gave me an opportunity to speak. She harped so incessantly on the drawing. Rather childish, I thought. But so is she, with not a symptom of savoir-faire. Yet her face is old. She must be at least 19 or so. I could read that face like a book one moment, and then she frowned or something, and I was all wrong. Her faintest smile changes it. Now and then it is almost as if she were beautiful. I was miserably awkward in her company, not at all myself. She must think me absurdly green. There's some skeleton in the old father's cupboard, I'll wager. A broken love affair, perhaps. Anyhow, I loathe tea-parties. Why can't people speak out as God made them? As I look back, I realize that she did not even shake hands with me, seemed almost to avoid doing so. I shouldn't think she really takes the slightest interest in me. She's an egoist. And here I am, wasting all this time, not to mention weeks of diary space, scribbling rubbish. I shall give up trying to analyze every little thing I do or think. I don't suppose Shakespeare or Napoleon did. The real thing is to forget oneself and to live for others. How much wiser is a man than his tongue? Wrote to Uncle Robert, marvelously starry night. April 29th. Went to concert with Madame and Fanny. Madame is good-humored enough, but otherwise a more or less meaningless mixture of frivolity, sententiousness, and scandal. It seemed as if I had not seen Florence for weeks. I said nothing about my visit. April 30th. Dreamed again of the old house. It was sunny, and the door opened, and old Lindsay came out into the garden, half encircled in a nimbus. Henceforward I shall keep an account of my dreams, I think. Man dreams probably all the time he is asleep, because thinking is to be, and we can't become nothing, or we should remain so. Took a constitutional in the afternoon, met G.M. A little Frenchiness is a dangerous thing. Mrs. Giles interred at 3:30. May 1st. May Day. Awoke with and in a fit of the miserables. Wet. Read some of that affected minx, Addison. He had no more essential knowledge of human nature than a fly. Have a good mind to write and thank Florence Lindsay for my visit. They were very civil, considering. Young man, beware. May 3rd. Learn to control thy thoughts, lest thy thoughts learn to control thee. May 4th. Went for a walk with Fanny. She never once ceased chattering about her sister's forthcoming wedding. A heathen custom, and we brag about our civilization, forsooth. It's no better than any other primitive rite, and so are funerals. Bury me in an apple barrel at the crossroads, say I. It's more real and human, at any rate, than crapulous coachmen and crocodile tears. Fanny asked me why I was different. She does not understand that a man may have more than one side to his character and nature. I am not a machine, although I may someday be a husband. May 5th. Went down again this morning. It seemed as if the caravans of spring were camping on the heath. There was a kind of immense warm stillness, a haze of sunshine, and all dazzlingly green. And almost the first person I encountered was Florence Lindsay herself. She was sitting on a little knoll of turf, her face turned away from me, and though all of her finery was gone, yet I recognized her instantly. I walked quickly over the turf, but though I scarcely made a sound, she heard me and turned quickly. By the brightness of her eyes, I fancied for a moment she had been crying, but I think she looks best in black. All women do. She put out her hand, looking at me, and something in the gesture, or in her expression, reminded me strangely of Mother. I made some silly remark about its not being a red-letter day.
"Don't talk about me," she said. "I'm dead alive, doled out, fey, and the scarlet, I think I wore it out of spite. I said to myself, I will be April too, and indeed I was, the first. I thought you might come again before today. I always believe people will do what I hope they will until they don't. But there, do not listen. The rain is over and gone."
She clasped her hands like a child.
"I often think,"
she began again, almost as if she were speaking to herself, and then it was just as if a shadow had come over her face. "What do you often think?" I said.
"Never mind,"
she said under her breath. Then she looked up at me with one of her curious smiles.
"Will you come back with me? Father would be delighted to see you. Will you come? Besides, I have not showed you half the house yet. Come, and you shall go straight back and be a child again. And to tell you the truth, I want to get used to the idea of you, grown up and polite and clever and all that. Oh, you are sadly altered. Still, I want to see you as you are and fit you into the house. Will you come?"
I could not be boor enough to refuse, though it was a precious nuisance. She was different from last time. Beneath all she said was something else. I can't express it exactly, but I was not the least bit more at my ease with her. Mr. Lindsay rose up, lank and stark as ever. Poor old man, his face does not practice his philosophical sermons. He sat there, his white cravat awry, a jagged frown on his forehead. Time had dried him up and ploughed him deep. Still, he's frightfully heavy, and for the life of me, I couldn't see the point of most of what he said. He seems to speak by rote. Gad, let me die green. I saw the woman Helen. I suppose she's a kind of housekeeper. She brought Florence a wrap, and wound it round and round her, as if she was bent on embalming her. I wanted to say good afternoon to her, just to be civil, but she didn't give me a chance. So Florence and I walked up and down in the garden together.
"You see," she said, "everything is the same, and time is a myth. I need not think unless I please, need I?"
She's always saying peculiar things like that. I shan't write it all down, but I can remember. She asked me all about myself. She leans forward with her questions. I have never met anybody with so many mannerisms. But I did not mention much. I told her about when I was at school, and all I remembered about my mother. And yet I hate talking about myself, like the hypocrite I am. And I have promised to go again. May 6th, 9 p.m. Showery. Feel but poorly. Had rather a bad night. Fanny was in a pet this evening. And I too. I was never intended for a married life. I loathe being gloated over as if I were a fatted calf for the wedding feast. And, 'pon my oath, I'm not after Madame's spoons, nor Madame's chastity neither. Wrote to Fanny. Bill from Page, moderate. Letter from Fanny to Nicholas, dated May 6th.
My own dear, dear Nick, you did not mean to hurt my feelings, and I was just as bad and worse. Mamma asked me why my eyes were so red, but I managed to put her off. I suppose I am rather fanciful, dear, but indeed you did not seem quite the same towards me, and I can't help fancies coming, because I am not very pretty and attractive, I know. But I won't in the future. I have sent you the smoking cap. I hope it won't be crumpled. Will you wear it, for my sake? I worked it all myself in my room, except, of course, the design. The top of the N is not quite right, but it's not nice stuff to work on, and just now there are so many things to do, I hardly know which way to turn. Papa said last night you had a good head on your shoulders. It doesn't sound much, but from him it means a good deal. Practicalness is not everything, whatever Mamma may say. Are you quite sure you are not in the least a bit cross with me now? I will try to understand, if you'll be patient, because I get so confused. Good night, dear. I feel rather mournful tonight. I don't know what I should do without you. From your ever affectionate Fanny. P.S. It's quite untrue about G.M., but I thought you did not care, and that made me angry and hateful.
May 8th. Sick headache. Fanny staying at her aunt's for a day or two. May 9th. Met Florence on Heath. She compelled me to run a race with her. We were like two children, and then, as I warned her, she had a fit of coughing and grew deadly white. She's not very strong, I fancy, so I made her take my arm, and she was very quiet all the way home. Only when I'm there, I forget the shackles of conventionality and am my real self. She is very difficult to understand, all index and chapter headings. But I am sure she does not do it on purpose, because she is very sincere. I think it's rather morbid. There is something unnatural in a woman intentionally thinking much. A woman's thoughts are almost always instinct, and we should not overstep nature's limitations. Why, love itself is absolutely unreasonable. You can't prove it, because then it simply goes. May 10th. Fanny returned home. Mrs. Mann thinks my voice is tenor in quality, wants me to join her singing academy. Discontented. May 11th. Florence took tea in the garden under the apple trees, but it began to be misty towards evening, and the old gentleman insisted on Florence going into the house. But I don't think she wanted to. She showed me her books. There is a long, dark painting of the Madonna above the mantelpiece. She does not draw or paint or do fancy needlework or anything of that kind.
I could if I had not tried,
she said, laughing, when I asked her, and that's rather good, because it's just as I feel about some things. I almost think I like the quiet of the house, and the heath stretching out far away. Generally, Florence is very restless, but tonight she seemed scarcely to breathe, and though it sounds very absurd, you almost see her thoughts in her face, her eyes especially. Sometimes I catch Mr. Lindsay's eyes fixed on me in a clear, vacant stare, as if they had carried a message to his brains and were awaiting a reply. I don't fancy he likes me. Florence says he suffers a good deal of pain, from some internal complaint, I suppose. Of course, it's a pithy thing to ignore pain, but after all, it's only bragging to oneself. It's not philosophical to be excessive, but to take things as they come, and not to put on airs in private. I grow more and more melancholy every day. May 12th. Spent the evening at Miller's. Fanny there, and a Miss Gwynn, fair hair and thin, a languishing ninny. She told Fanny I had the air of a flirt. Silly chit. Rather good fun to talk to, though. Fancied Fanny was not in very good spirits. I can't be forever at her heels. Voices in the air, as if someone were calling. I looked out, and there was a crescent moon among the stars. It's a mysterious world. May 13th. Oh, how I abominate this damnable world! What is it? Sham virtues, sham friendship, sham everything. Why, even its vices are sham. Bear it all and sneer at it. Rise above it. With the worms is peace. All is vanity, said the sage Jew, and every wise man since has said the same. And Destiny said, "Sip thou of this cup, miserable mortal. Thy journey is over, thy intolerable lassitude had an end." A cynic is one who scrapes the paint off the face of truth. If only I could get away. May 14th. Letter from Uncle Robert, still harping on my going away. And now he is mean enough to threaten LSD as a trump card. Some day they shall hear me. May 15th. St. Barnabas's. Walked home from church with Fanny and could find positively nothing to say. My head keeps getting vacant. May 17th. Caught in the rain. Florence insisted on standing up under a chestnut tree. We were wet through. I have never seen anyone so eager over mere trifles as she is. Her very fingers seemed to speak. We were discussing what we would like to have been.
"Ah," said she, "I would like to have been a gambler. Every groat I had, and the lights would twirl. And there, a white mist of faces and the hubbub of voices would fall away little in the distance, and my forehead all cold, and my heart go so. And then, oh yes, that's it, to spend all and buy nothing. One vivid moment of wild, viewless light. Only once to fling away and forget poor narrow I and thou and they and all. Look, the white sun comes reeling out, and everything is on tiptoe, singing in the rain. It's just as it used to be with the rhymes in the old silly pigtail days. Verses on verses are to scribble all about jetty hair and eyes of fire and dead sweet lovers. I would sit down burning, my heart up here, in a very fine frenzy, and all would be mad ink and blurred brains, and in the midst of the scribble I would get up and come out, and the wind would scatter all my poetry, and blow me quite sane again. And now, come, my voice is cracked."
We talked incessantly, and, as luck would have it, Mr. Lindsay came out to meet her with wraps and umbrellas. He came stalking out of the distance, over the dripping grass, staring into vacancy, his face as scarred and grey as an extinct volcano. But it looked uncommonly as if Florence and I had met on the sly. May 19th. I'm tired of trying to sympathize with people. They don't appreciate it, and you get nothing but ingratitude for your pains. We are all selfish at the roots. May 20th. Met Fanny with G.M. Don't blame him, the puppy. And as for being jealous, derelict till the devil drops me a shot. May 21st. Can do nothing. I am simply flotsam on the tide of life. I think it would be better to go away. I must work. That's the sovereign remedy. I am simply rotting, as it is, so of course I get self-conscious and exaggerate things. Weak, erring humanity has not the power to pierce the mystery of things. We must toil blindly on. If only I had someone to confide in utterly, who would listen and never weary, and take me all in all. Headache. Went to bed early. May 22nd. Can a leopard change his spots? Told Fanny after church that I had decided to take Uncle's advice. She was extremely dejected, but I reasoned with her that it was all for the best, and pointed out that the heavier the present, so much the easier would the future be. Poor child, she has silly fancies of impending disaster, but it is best for her. God knows it is misery enough for me. Shall not mention my plans to Florence. May 23rd. Wrote to Uncle Robert. May 25th. Woman's love is selfish. It will not bear analysis. Man's love is intellectual and of the soul. Woman's is an instinct, a fleeting emotion. Henceforward I abjure ye all. May 26th. Midnight. All is as I thought it would be. Everything I do is rank and sour. I have proved myself an unutterable fool and blackguard, and that's enough. I really thought that I meant all I said. Why did I not keep to my vow and not go down? Why did I tell her about my going away? She seemed to fascinate me, her silence and her strange smile and her sympathy. How could I have been so foolish? I see it all, the brightening moon and the boughs thick with blossom, and how she turned, pale and strange, and looked at me when I kissed her. She was almost beautiful, with that half-sorrowful smile. Her eyes haunt me, her lips were burning hot, and to think that all this time she has seen through me. I wonder if she guessed about Fanny. What would Fanny say, and the others? My thoughts are in a black whirling chaos. I do not think I really understand love, but she must think I love her. And she made me feel so utterly mean and contemptible when she refused to listen to me, as if I were a silly, chattering child. And so calm and unmoved she was afterwards, like Mr. Lindsay himself. I don't think he noticed anything, because she was perfectly calm, and her hands were like stones. But that woman Helen is as sharp as a ferret. I don't know which way to turn. What must she think of me, hypocrite and fool and traitor that I am? I must flee away into drudgery and solitude, and perhaps in the future the world may look in mercy on me. God knows I do not deserve mercy. There are moments in the life of a man when the world is so bitter and himself so sour in his own mouth that even death is no hope, and life one long, interminable woe. Letter from Nicholas to Florence. My dear Florence, I cannot reproach and despise myself sufficiently for my conduct last evening. It was very ungentlemanly and unpardonable. The troubles and anxieties of the past few days have sorely unhinged me. I dare say you can imagine what difficulties must occur to a man on first setting out on his career. I am going on the 15th Prox. You have been so kind to me and so hospitable that I feel I can never repay you. Indeed, I do. You have been infinitely more than a sister towards me, and I do not see why separation should make any difference to us. At least, it will not to me. I cannot remember quite what I said. How was it that you had heard what you said you had? I trust you did not take cold. It was so very thoughtless of me to keep you out in the garden. I hope you will take great care of yourself. I am not quite myself at present, so will write no more. Believe me, ever your sincere friend, Nicholas. P.S. Do you really like talking to me? It seemed like destiny that our paths should cross. And indeed, I hate myself and everything, and I think if you knew me, you would see what I mean and forgive me. May 27th. Am going on the 15th. Wrote to Florence. Fanny has no idea. She trusts in me implicitly. I swear never to undeceive her. I must not think of myself. Very busy all day making preparations. I think I am acting wisely, but oh, the difference to me. Letter from Florence to Nicholas. I understand. Indeed, I have indeed forgotten all the sweet, mad things you said to me and to the moon. Was it not so? She was listening too. I saw her between the branches. Perhaps it is my shadows have whispered to me much about you, much that I could never have discovered for my poor self. You are going away to work, and I think it is much, much best for you. And if you knew what paths of glory I used to trace out for the child of my little black picture, and how I imagined my eagerness would help him on his way, just as his lonely company and his wistful child's eyes have helped me, the very brightness of hope, you would not mind my clapping my hands and urging you on. Yes, my dear Nicholas, you must work, and I am glad to think it is to my bleak, haunted Cornwall you are going, for there I can think of you where you are, and me, why, here I shall be in my own familiar world of solitude, just waiting. And if I do not forget you, my own friend of the springtime, and if sometimes I turn back to the brief magic of the moon, you'll forgive me that, and forget my harshness and my awkward ways and tongue, remembering only that I had kept faith with you these many, many years, and am not ashamed. You just came into this world of mine as you were bound to come,
And now forget me and work on. May God keep thee, Nicholas. Florence Lindsay.
May 28th. Letter from Uncle Robert, enclosing check. Also from Florence. How she despises me, yet perhaps she has taken me rightly. Who knows, if things had been otherwise? If. But ifs make sour thinking. Work, work, work. That's the secret, and goodbye to sentiment. Talk is but braying. June 13th. Went down to say goodbye. We walked over the heath, but she was too tired to go far, and we stayed by the miller's pool. It seemed another world with its deep stars. We did not talk much. Only once she stopped suddenly, as if she had forgotten something.
You see, sometimes I cannot remember,
she said almost to herself. And we came back to the house. All the windows were dark. She looked very ill, as though she were troubled about something. I asked her to write me. She looked at me, saying nothing. So we stood by the gates, and she turned away from me.
For you see, it could not be words, she said. Oh, it comes into my silence, and I cannot but hear. But you, perhaps you will write and tell me about the place and yourself, where you are and what you are thinking, and, everything. Let me see your face once more. Say nothing.
So I took her hand, and she told me to work, and said that I must remember that of her.
Goodbye, she said. Just 7 letters. Goodbye. That is all.
And she pushed back my hair and kissed me on the forehead. The gate swung to on its hinges. Its noise seemed to startle her. I fancy she cried out. Then Helen opened the door and came out and stared under the lamp towards me. Very soon Florence came running back. She stumbled and nearly fell on the path, but ran on coughing and laughing.
There,
she said to me, panting after her running.
It is quite safe. I have brought you this.
I see her now, looking through the bars of the iron gates at me, and before I could answer, she was gone. And I heard Helen shooting the bolts of the front door, as I remember watching Martha do in the winter evenings a great eternity ago. So I was shut out. It was the little picture she had given me. I took it out and looked at it by the dim suffused light of the moon. The house was quite dark and silent, so I thought it better not to go back and thank her. I can't think why she gave me the picture. I thought she treasured it so. It was very mournful, saying goodbye, but I feared she would have felt it more. So this is the end. It was all very strange, and my mind is confused and tired. Farewell to childishness. I am going solitary into exile, and shall scribble no more. Day after day would be only the same wine, or sham and affection, which is worse. All diaries are. Thoughts spoken are thoughts belied. I think it higher and nobler for a man to plod patiently and silently on through the impenetrable gloom. There may be light beyond. Know thyself, said the ancient sage. Every great man has been disciplined by solitude. I am a fool, and that confession is the herald of wisdom.